In 2016, the prog metal band Dream Theater released what has become their most ambitious and contentious album, the double-disc sci-fi concept album The Astonishing. Of course, something on this grand of a scale couldn't just be an album, so we also got a Broadway-esque tour for the album where the whole thing was played live with immersive visuals and sound, we got a novelization of the album, and also a mobile game. Yeah, I'm not touching that one. I'll stick with talking about the book here today, which was adapted from guitarist John Petrucci's concept by Peter Orullian. Now, admittedly, I was not a fan of the album, but I'm going to try and approach this with an open mind in spite of my hang-ups. But oh boy, are there hang-ups that are going to be hard to ignore. Let's read the synopsis on the back. In a not-so-distant future, our world has returned to the ugliness of feudalism. Only this time, those in power control the servant class with the very thing that once inspired men to rise up and take back their lives. Music. But this is not the music of old. That music is forgotten. No, this new music is engineered entirely by machines. This music suppresses that part of humanity which might be inspired. Subtle. About as subtle as naming your villain friggin' Nefarious. Yeah, I can't ignore this. Emperor Nefarious has to be one of the most on-the-nose, brain-dead character names in all of fiction. Dig Dastardly is a more subtle villain name, and if you lack the tact of a Hanna-Barbera cartoon, maybe the story and characters of your progressive metal concept album need reworking. So yeah, I haven't even opened the book yet, and it's clear I have some reservations about this, but hopefully a talented author can make this work in the literary medium. I can't say I'm optimistic since talented musicians couldn't make it work in a musical medium, but one can't rule anything out. Well, it doesn't exactly start off on a promising note, with the super cliché setup of woman who is close to the main character, here named Gabriel, is pregnant and dies during childbirth among a dystopian backdrop. Like, how are people even having sex in this musically deprived world without Barry White to guide them? I can only suspend my disbelief so much. The woman is Evangeline, the beau of Gabriel's little brother Ares, and in her dying breath she names the baby Xander. Ares begs Gabriel to bring her back to life with a song. Huh? Ares tries to reason that Gabriel's music touches people in magical ways. Maybe it can even save people by way of necromancy, I guess. But even Gabriel's like, that's not how the gift works. He tries to save Evangeline and, surprise, fails, but maybe it'll work later on for the convenience of the plot. Who's to say? Okay, it's actually elaborated on a little bit later on in the story. Gabriel has an innate ability to use his music to both heal and destroy, he just doesn't know how to control it yet. But after meeting a princess who prides herself on diplomatic negotiations, he teaches himself to control his supernatural abilities over the course of, 2 days. Huh. But first, the story jumps ahead 8 years. Ares and Gabriel are leading a small band of rebels to fight against the tyrannical empire. Huh. Anyway, they're planning to ambush a convoy of supplies headed to Emperor Nefarious. God, I'm never gonna get over that name. But the plan flounders in execution, resulting in heavy losses and ending in a retreat before the supplies can be grabbed. Later that night, back at the rebel camp, Gabriel attempts to comfort Don, a man who lost his son in the ambush. I don't need one of your songs, Gabriel. No offense. Not why I came. Your son was brave. Honest. Everyone liked him. I know. It's right to be heartsick. I know. Maybe a line or two. Gabriel sings a song and it seems to lift Don's spirits. What you do, Gabriel, it's astonishing.
He said it! He said it!
Open your eyes, Nicholas. Oh, Doc, I was experiencing Metropolis Part 2, scenes from a memory.
Oh, that's why they call it that.
I love this little campfire scene. A man's just lost his son. He's grieving by himself around a campfire, and only through a personal connection with music does he find the opportunity for healing. It's simple, but effective and beautiful. It drives the point of the power of music better than any grand-scale Game of Thrones political conflict could convey. But alas, the political conflict continues. Emperor Nefarious, nope, still not over it, is becoming more and more aware of Gabriel, the exploits of his brother and the rebel band, and the hope he's bringing to the people of Ravenskill with his music. This music is in direct opposition to Nefarious' own nomacs, or noise machines, which... I have no friggin' idea what's up with these. They're like security drones, but they play computer-generated music that, if I'm following this correctly, somehow kills inspiration in people so they submit to the crappy lives they live? What? And Nefarious has a whole-ass lab that regularly makes new models that he just brings to a public square for demonstrations? Who would willingly go to these? I have a sneaking suspicion, especially with the synopsis on the back, that the Nomacs are a boomerish allegory for modern pop music. They make music that's computerized, soulless, mass-produced, and forcibly thrust upon the masses. I can't be sure if that allegory is what they're going for, but one could certainly make the case. Pfft, like Dream Theater hasn't been making soulless, mass-produced garbage the last 15 years themselves. What? Disclaimer, I do still like Dream Theater. That was just a cheap jab and exaggeration of my true feelings on their modern sound. I still feel like there's good material, and in fact I think they've been on an upswing with the two most recent albums compared to everything else since Mike Mangini joined. And now I've over-explained everything. Just pick a side and find the comments already. But anyway, Nefarious shows up the next day to Ravenskill, flaunting his military might as he calls for Gabriel, yes, the minstrel and not Ares, the actual leader of the military faction that he has drone footage of engaging in a plot to intercept a supply convoy, to surrender himself to arrest in 3 days' time, instead of going for a 2-for-1 then and there. Hey dipshit, you don't have to do this goofy mustache-twirling villainous display of military dick-waving where you accomplish basically nothing. You have videographic evidence of Gabriel being an accessory to seditious conspiracy. You're giving him 3 days to either come up with a plan working together with his brother to take on your army, which they have done before, or escape. I don't even understand his hate boner for Gabriel. I guess he's thinking of it as a domino effect, like if he falls the others will follow, but Gabriel really hasn't done much of anything to warrant drawing the ire of Nefarious. Ares is more or less calling the shots here. He's making the speeches, he's out in the field putting himself in the middle of the action, while Gabriel doesn't even seem to have a firm grasp on what his musical abilities can actually do. So, why go after Gabriel? What is the motivation?
It's about hope. Whatever else music can do, it can give hope. And hope isn't something we can afford to let these people have.
What, is he doing this just to give them despair? Did Nefarious see Junko Enoshima and go, "Wow, she's literally me. I shall give you despair"? Even Nefarious' son Darius recognizes how stupid his father is being about this and plans to take things into his own hands. So at least this seems to be deliberate storytelling and not bad writing, or at least not completely. And you would think that would make my bitching for the last several minutes largely pointless. But Nefarious has scenes where he seems meticulously methodical with his actions, so to have him not take the opportunity to get rid of two thorns in his side when he has a chance, and instead offer them an ultimatum which gives them time to plot a rebellious FU, that just seems largely incompetent and clashes with the characterization that Nefarious knows what he's doing. And while I'm talking about Darius, he's a petulant, ruthless, power-hungry man-child who oh so desperately seeks daddy's approval and will do anything to prove that he's worthy of being the heir to the throne over his sister, despite the fact that he's already got the gig lined up. And while he's probably the most multifaceted character in this, that archetype is so overdone and done better in other fantasy IPs that it's even hard to love to hate him when he does the despicable things you expect of him. I gotta admit though, being willing to sacrifice allying representatives gathered for a peace summit at the place he's invading with his dad's military, woohoo, that's pretty scummy. Nefarious also has a daughter named Faith, a typical do-no-wrong princess who he brought to his little demonstration for some reason. There she locked eyes with Gabriel and became immediately enamored with him. So she decides to Princess Jasmine it up and covertly infiltrate Ravenskill to get close to Gabriel and establish a peaceful resolution to all of this. She's found out basically immediately, seeing as the whole town just saw her the day before. It probably doesn't help that, seeing as they're on the brink of war and are a tight-knit community, any strangers asking about Gabriel's whereabouts will likely draw suspicion. The book points this out, but that doesn't make it any less of a glaring oversight on Faith's part. Not thinking shit through must run in the family or something. But Faith meets up with Gabriel, and they hatch up an admittedly flimsy plan to try and make Nefarious see reason through Gabriel's music. There's a little moment here that I like where Faith reveals that she has a music player from centuries ago with stuff like Trans-Siberian Orchestra on it because, 1, Trans-Siberian Orchestra is awesome, and 2, it kind of reminds me of the end of Guardians of the Galaxy 2 where Peter Quill gets a Zune. It turns out this music player also once belonged to Nefarious, and a long time ago he recorded a song onto it known only as Song 237, and the story of the song being recorded is added as a short story to this novel. And yes, there is a lot of emphasis being placed on this, isn't there? Oh, just you wait. Darius ends up being a driving force for what happens in the rest of the book. He takes matters into his own hands, following his sister to the rebel base, kidnapping Ares' son Xander as leverage for Ares to hand over his brother, and launching an assault on Ravenskill before Nefarious' deadline. The back half of this novel is surprisingly militaristic, with lots of tactical war to sink your teeth into as you flip back and forth from the map at the front of the book to see where the action's happening. The use of music as a weapon is also a somewhat interesting twist on the military combat and leads to another small part I really like, where a group of freedom fighters literally rupture their ears and learn to read lips so they aren't subjected to the nomax, showing the lengths the people of Ravenskill will go to in order to stick it to Nefarious. At this point, Gabriel has a bit of a handle on making the most of his musical abilities, and uses an amplifier to unleash his gift's destructive power on the fleet of drones and cruisers invading Ravenskill. Everything comes to a head at Gabriel and Faith's planned meeting with Nefarious. Darius arrives ahead of everyone, as does Ares, and Darius just straight up murders him. Then Gabriel arrives just in time to grieve over his brother, and Darius takes the opportunity to gank his shit. Except it's actually his sister, Faith. You'd think he would have, taken a little more precaution there. Maybe lifted the hood, or something. Then Gabriel actually arrives, along with Nefarious. Gabriel is absolutely spent, and as much as he wants to sing to try and save Faith, he just can't summon the strength after unleashing that powerful musical assault on Darius' invasion fleet. And then, get ready for some corny-ass shit. The whole town gathers in the amphitheater and is united in song.
We celebrate a day of peace.
I guess everyone's got the gift now since the song revitalizes both Gabriel and Faith. Ares, he's still dead. I guess he was a lost cause. Or maybe they just didn't sing hard enough. In case you haven't connected the dots by now, everyone sings Song 237 for Nefarious, and after it saves Faith from her precarious situation, it touches him so deeply that he just instantly calls off everything, and it just kind of ends there. From Darius murdering Ares until the end is like only 15 pages, and a lot happens in that span, and then it just ends so abruptly. We don't even have Nefarious go, maybe I should do something about my name now, it sounds a little menacing. Although I imagine it would go something like this.
Thank you. I have been called bad before. Many have said I do things that are not correct to do. I don't believe in such talk as this. I am nice man with happy feelings all of the time.
I can't believe it's taken this long to fit a Kung Pao reference into one of my vids. The ending is so rushed and corny that I honestly couldn't help but laugh quite a few times. The town baker is revealed to be a spy Nefarious has sent to gather intel, but the spy is totally turned heel to give intel to the resistance in Ravenskill instead. And how did everyone learn Song 237? As far as I can tell, the only recording is on Faith's music player, which she still has on her person as she bleeds out in the amphitheater. Whatever, it's over. Somewhat. The back half of the book is mostly bonus materials, including synopses, concept art for the characters and settings, complete lyrics for the album, and interviews with each of the band members conducted by the author, Peter Orullian. John Myung's answers are as succinct as you would expect from him. I gotta admit though, Mike Mangini's interview makes him seem like more of a hired gun than a band member, with little to no input in the music or creative process for the Astonishing. And it's a bit disheartening, honestly, especially given the theme of musical self-expression. Thankfully, Mike Mangini has since had a songwriting credit on the band's follow-up album to The Astonishing, Distance Over Time, and seems to be more of a driving force within the band, so this observation seems moot, or at least only applied to the production process of The Astonishing. If you're a Dream Theater fan, especially of this album, this book is quite the complete package. Look, I know I sound like I went into this book wanting to hate it, and I don't know how to convince people otherwise, but I didn't. Sure, I can bitch about plot holes and stupid character names and the overblown nature of the whole thing until the cows come home, but I can't get mad at the message. And sometimes the message is more important than how it's told. Music is one of those powerful tools we humans have. It gives a voice to the oppressed, it's inspired cultural revolution, it's helped people grieve through loss and discover emotions within ourselves that we might not have even known were there. Without music, our humanity may as well be gone. Even if a piece of music reaches and touches only one person, it's absolutely worth it to that one person. This whole Astonishing project can even be seen as a celebration of Dream Theater being able to express themselves musically to a devoted fan base of millions for over 30 years. That in itself is kind of astonishing. Did we really need a 2-hour album, a novel, and a mobile Steam game to get this point across? Well, sometimes I really need things put in perspective for me, but that might be a little overkill. I don't hate this book or the album it's based on, but I do think it's misguided. Any grievances I have with the book lie with the core concept and not Peter Orullian's writing, which I can tell he did the best he could with what he had to work with. The message that it's trying to get across is much better conveyed in the smaller, quieter parts of the book. There is good stuff here, it's just so caught up in itself that the good stuff almost gets lost. Would I recommend it? Probably only to the most die-hard fans of Dream Theater, unless what I've described here really piques your interest. I mean, I don't know, I'm just some guy on the internet. Join me next time as I take a long look at Pokemon fanfiction. Thanks for watching, and stay hydrated.